We're live with The Vault. I'm Jess, and this is my co-host, Alexa Miller. Alexa, who do we have the privilege of interviewing on the show today?
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Today, we are interviewing Sam Abdallah. He is a listing specialist with Keller Williams serving the Kitchener-Waterloo region. He teaches at other Keller Williams market centers and is also a part of their leadership council. So thank you, Sam, for joining us, and welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm grateful to be here and share with your audience. Thank you so much.
I'm so pumped. Even that introduction, like you're teaching, you're in a market center, do you have a team?
So I had an assistant. Now we're actually undergoing some changes, making sure when we'll go through that, hiring the right operations person. Obviously we have our vendors as teams, but when it comes to actually our core team, we're kind of just rebuilding again. And a lot of life lessons, and depending on your audience, whether they're realtors, business owners, whatnot, we can definitely go through kind of some learnings from there too, because I think there's some gems in that too. So
yes, we're all for the gems.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start. Just tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate since 2015. I actually got involved in real estate through an invite to a flipping formula course where we decided to spend $30,000 of our own money. And I called my wife after and told her I spent the money on this course. But the thing that it taught me, though, is just to think bigger and start believing in yourself and start seeing synchronicities. So the best thing about the real estate business is it takes you on a growth journey of just becoming a person. And I remember becoming the person. I remember Myron Golden, great speaker, great person, business owner. He talked about how the business is always working on you, even if you don't think the business is working. It's actually working on you to become a specific type of person to attract, whether the clients, the business. So, I'm really grateful. I'm at a point now. I'm very happy in what I'm doing because I'm just super authentic, and just one of my core values is just bringing value to people and contribution. And so I think where other people have seen challenges in the situation, I've seen like where it's caused me to get better in certain skills, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, so that's what I do. I focus on listing specialist, helping people, sell their home. If it's an investor that has a renewal coming up, that's very prevalent right now. Then we're focusing on, every time we call someone, we have something of value to give them. So if it's a budget analysis on their property, budget worksheet, if they have a renewal, how can we solve the problem for them? I'm a big fan of marketing books and all those Russell Brunson and all that stuff. And Dan Kennedy, I knew you are too. So figuring out, what's the problem and what's the solution. And when we can solve a problem, the more problems we solve, obviously the more we serve people and better it is for all of us. But yeah, I love what I do there. And then I've been privileged to be able to teach at the leadership councils in the Keller Williams. Started that brokerage. I do love the habits and things that it teaches you. So being a better business owner and having specific models. And as you get better with those models, you kind of iterate over time and add some creativity to it. But overall, you can start, you get a good foundation, especially changing your mindset around things with money and business owner. It helps you as a realtor. So that's a 50,000 foot overview. Obviously, we work with a lot of agents as well because we've taught at other market centers. So we're able to add value to them, and they bring us referrals because they have usually a more expensive market. So for example, Toronto, people moving west to Kitchener or Waterloo, we find that that's kind of a good thing for us because we're able to serve these people. And, if someone's downsizing, for example, then, for example, like your team, there's a lot of people moving from our area to cottage country. And so they're downsizing to be close to the grandkids. So we're finding there's a lot of opportunities to serve people and kind of figuring out what kind of, niching down on that market. So it's a long answer.
Yeah. Well, I love how you wrap that up because you're talking about, adding a value items, being authentic in your business, going through trial and errors. And what's interesting is when you summarize all that, you just showed the next level of business that you were able to attain by teaching at the leadership councils and the market centers in other areas. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it definitely puts you in a place where you're forced to grow. And I do believe that those growths, those next steps are given to you. So yeah, you have growth plan, you have goals, and yet there is adjusting along the way. So you do kind of get another step When we also created and congrats on your amazing podcast. I think you guys are doing awesome. And when we created ours too, it was something like a growth step, the next growth step to, intuitively or whatever you call it, download or whatever, just made sense for us to do that. And then as you start reading and learning more about it, you realize the reason, but you don't know the how when you think about it. You just think about that this is a great thing. But when it comes to teaching, I think a lot of realtors, when they have the mindset that it's just for them to get a deal, rather than just bringing that value, because really, whether you call it indoctrination or just adding content and adding value, you're just building relationships. So that resistance is less, and that prospect or that referral person or whatever is really likely to bring business to you because they trust you and they know that you can solve a problem for their prospect or them. So
yeah, it's going back to that serving, not solving, and you want them to know, like, and trust you. We hear that a lot, which is nice to hear it again and have that validation of those items, for that business growth, I think is super important. Can you tell us the name of your podcast? I love it. And I really want to share it with everyone.
Sure. Yeah. It's Build Your Health, Wealth, and Legacy. So we didn't too strategically think about, well, this is the niche market and it's only this market. It's really just a podcast to empower people to, whether it's a small business owner, a wealthy business owner, someone who's looking to get into that mind space, just has that mindset to grow, expand. Everybody we bring on, I just love bringing value and contributing great knowledge for people. So whether someone comes on and talks about how to invest in Costa Rica, or whether someone talks about, investment trusts, investment accounts, I get to utilize other people's knowledge, and it helps me learn a lot. It's been kind of a selfish reason. I get to learn a ton from these people, and it's been amazing to grow from that, and having these great conversations with high level people as well too. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm learning so much, even if there are guests on before you. It was incredible. And I'm also noticing such a common thread of mindset. It's all mindset, everything.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mindset is, very important, right? It's like, you can, the programming, that whether that programming is good or not good, it's like, how do we figure out how to make a choice to, change what we think about most of the time and generate new results, right? So, that's going to lead to the thinking and the thoughts and the results and actions. So,
Very good. So I want to back up a little bit. So you call yourself a listing specialist. Are you solely a listing agent, or do you just prefer to work with sellers only? Can you explain to any new realtors listening what it takes to be a listing specialist, how you got into that?
Really good question, because it's not as easy as you think.
No,
right?
It's not.
And everyone first year wants to pop into it, and we have to kind of grow into it.
You absolutely do. And
you do. Like, this is my 10th year, and I just sort of had that. I would say that it's been a lot of learning and growth along the way. So instead of attempting to be everything to everybody, of course, we do service buyers that come from those listings, but yet, whether you call it a rainmaker or someone that's bringing business, I think really the goal is, without listings, those are the best advertising for you. The best advertising is a great price listing, which is going to allow you to bring great people that might want to buy. We had a place in Guelph listed, and I'll share two interesting stories. One that could have seemed like a failure, but it was actually a success. But one, we had an investor client. We work with also some wealthy people as well, and he had some properties and he was looking to sell. And we sold it, and the market had changed. There was like a ton of new construction condos that hit the market. So although we didn't sell it, I met some great clients from that. So we will still service our clients when it comes to people who are looking to buy in the area. But we find that helping service understand the listing process, what systems do we have when it goes under contract, when we get a listing, what's the process, the repeatable steps that we do, and being on different expansion teams, such as McKay and all those other teams. I've learned a lot about some of those processes that, make it successful. And, we recently are reorganizing our organization because, we noticed that we're paying attention to the client care. And if we're client facing, we want to make sure that things are done right. There's not mistakes, but we're learning and we're making sure they're done really professionally. So because how you do anything is how you do everything, you know? So we want to make sure that we're putting a great foot forward, whether it's a referral, we're treating them really well. We've got a system to follow up. And one of the biggest message to your listeners, if they're a realtor starting out, is if you can follow up at a high level, you don't need leads, you don't need advertising, you can know people, and you will bring business, and you will be separated from 80% of the noise. You know, like 90% of people on a for sale by owner list with an agent that keeps in touch with them after 4 weeks. So, you know, it's all in the follow-up. It could be 17 follow-ups, it could be 10. It just is about how you iterating. Are you making offers to people? Are you giving value? You know, and there's a great saying by Myron. It was like, make more offers, right? So if you're making an offer, right? If you're making an offer to an investor client, you say, hey, you know, I know we have renewals coming up. Maybe you need to sell your investment property. Here's a you know, budget analysis, and we have a paralegal that you can talk to. You're opening up conversations for business, and that's just naturally how it's going to happen, you know? So this whole, like, you know, 80s version of, like, you know, do you want to buy or sell? It doesn't quite work that way.
Yeah.
You have to gain into relationship and conversation. And those conversations happen when they see that you're competent. Cause I believe that that's one level of trust too.
It is. Yeah. It's that relationship building, right? That's how you're building that relationship for business.
And everyone worries about quantity over quality when it comes to leads, which
100%.
is not how you need to go about. And I mean, I've been there. I'm like, okay, I need to, you know, for my lead gen, I need to do this, this, and this, and talk to 100 people in one day. And if you have leads already in your downline, you need to nurture them, and eventually they'll buy or sell.
Exactly. And, you know, I think a lot of people, what they do is they think that because they don't know that person, they're not able to bring them into becoming someone that's really close to them, that will refer them. I had someone that literally I called from the classifieds. Like, when I never had a ton of money to do advertising, I would, you know, use that as a resource, and I would reach out, and this was a property manager. We developed a relationship over time where, you know, most of those people aren't following up, and I'm just adding value and seeing how they're doing. And there's an intention there, but it's not like it's what's in it for me. It's still intentional. It's not like we're just calling and talking about the cat, Harry, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, we are having intention, but we are doing it in a way that's authentic and, you know, giving value and helping people and seeing where they need help. But yeah, to your point, I think a lot of realtors feel that they need more leads, and then that's obviously feeding the lead gen companies. But really, it comes to, if you know someone well, how can you connect with them? How can you let them know that you're in a authority position of, like, someone who knows what they're talking about? And then how can you solve a problem for them? And how can you get them to open up about those issues? And if they are an orphan client, someone they've worked with someone else in the past, I still don't waste that conversation. You know, say, how was your experience? You know, what made you choose that realtor? Maybe it's a learning opportunity, or even, you know, well, if we can bring you some great value or something to help you with your move, would you consider having a conversation with us in the future? So, you know, no person is really a wasted contact unless it's not a valid contact at all, or unless they just said, don't ever talk to me again. So
until you get that, no, it's just conversation. I love how you word it as, would you like to have a conversation? Like, there's no commitment. It's so easy. I say it all the time. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. You know, what do you need? Again, and there's so many value resources out there that you can give people. Like, they're overflowing. Like, I get overwhelmed because there's so much I can give you, where I have to sometimes think, what's the purpose of what I feel I need? And then that, right? Yeah.
And, you know, like whether it's mastery or whatever, you're making things simple for them. You're being that resource. So if, like, when I had that mindset in the last couple of years and just keep growing on it, was like just giving away things for free, just giving it away for free, just adding so much value. You know, you whether it's in an open house or whatever, you just become someone that they trust and know. And then eventually there's just a connection there that you're able to work with them. And if not, that's okay too. You support them where they're at. You know, it's this mentality. When you have that mentality, I feel like, whether it's generosity generation or whatever you want to do, if you can be a connector and you can solve problems for people, you will make money, but it will happen because you will just be more valuable in the marketplace. And so that's what I look at. And that's the reason that it's so easy for me to make calls. You know, we all have our days, but ultimately it's a lot easier for me to make those contacts and to reach out to people and just keep those relationships.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's also, like you said, validating them. There's no right and wrong. If you don't want to talk, no worries at all. And if you do, that's great. So it's giving them that permission that whatever they choose, it's okay. And I also noticed, Sam, that what you just said was you kind of get to a point where you're giving out so many free resources. Because if you're like me, you're so excited and I can't wait to share them with you because it's knowledge. And what do you do with knowledge? You give it away. Right. And then that just booms your business because you're genuinely really want to give it to someone.
Exactly. It reminds me, I remember hearing this really cool thing that when someone writes a book, it's the same information that's in their course, that's on YouTube, that's whatever. But when they buy the course or whatever from that person or that creator or whatever, they're doing it to get closer to the author, to get closer into that story. They resonate with that person, So, yeah, it's really interesting how you say that. The information's everywhere, but if it's a person business, it's a people business that you build those connections and definitely important for sure.
Yeah, it's all about relationships. And I think it's important to note when doing all of this, be yourself. Because I'm not somebody who cold calls and door knocks because if I do that, I'll be fake and it just won't work. I won't get a good response.
And if you did, like when I first got in the business, like I did a ton of that because I used to work in the business to business sales industry. And I also worked with the telecommunications and stuff. So being on the phone was so easy for me. I could make like 200 calls, but not knock a door. You know what I mean? And I've probably only got one ever sale. 350 clients I've served, probably only one or two from door knocking. You got to find what works for you. And, being able to build rapport at a high level and see if you could serve that person and having no expectations, that generosity kind of mindset, because you don't have any expectations, you're going to get something back. You get into some amazing conversations. Like I talked to someone that I literally had, I remember this story. It's actually a cool story. I don't remember how I knew her from, but I didn't even met her in person. And I kept in touch with her over a year or so, every couple months, like every quarter is probably a good time. And, she was actually looking for opportunity for like a job. And I knew a friend who had a virtual assistant company and I connected them. So just being that connector, right? Now she remembers me, but she told me a story how she worked at Disney and how, like all the interesting things, it was just really cool. And then after that, she said, you know what? I actually know someone down the street that's going to be they need to sell this house. It's distressed. And here's the address and here's the picture. And I'll keep an eye out for you. So now we have like a lead generating person on the streets, like looking for deals for us. You know what I mean? So how cool is that? Right?
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Such an authentic way to think of it.
And I like that you said, don't have any expectations. Like I met a guy once at a baby shower. He was there with his partner and I've kept in touch with him and he's never bought or sold anything with me, but he has sent me business because we just had such a normal conversation that obviously led into real estate because people always ask what you do and this and that. And there was no expectation from that conversation with him. And, lo and behold, he sends me a deal one day. Yeah. So just, have no expectations. I think
those are the best relationships because it didn't start with any expectations.
Exactly.
Right. And then it just authentically molds on its own and becomes
that's mine. Probably, Jen.
Yeah.
and when you're calling to give, it's really fun, right? Like, I mean, whether you call it referral points or whatever, like you're just giving. So you're excited because you're like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. And how's business? How's life? How's everything? Thanks for taking the call. And by the way, I have someone that might, looking to buy in your area. He's looking to buy a commercial property or whatever it is, so, we're able to add more value, have more things in the air, and still focus on our business and keep those distractions minimal and keep focusing. So, yeah.
I do have a question. Have you always been with the brokerage that you're at now?
Yeah. I started this brokerage. I've been here since day one. There's a lot of mixed thoughts on where people move, et cetera. There's really no right or wrong answer. I've seen people move and it didn't work out. I do think that it can be a distraction. And I think that people get distracted. Maybe they think that there's something better, or if they're really not getting the support, then for sure. But I was grateful that, I learned some good things from the start getting here, being immersed in some of those events were great too, because it gets you around like-minded people as well. And, you think possibility, it's like immersion, right? When you go to a country, you want to be immersed in that language. So you really can learn that language.
Yeah, for sure. And we just so happen to be a part of the same family as Sam, the Keller Williams family. And so we know why we joined this brokerage, but for those listening that are newer or writing their courses, like what is something to look out for at a brokerage when you're starting?
Yeah, values is big. Like, do they share the common values? Like, and usually that shows up in language, right? So, if they're talking only about split, or they're talking about, just not great things about maybe someone they've worked with, or they're not talking about collaborative, that's probably maybe not in line with your values, then it might not be the best fit. Being a training and education company, I think helps. It definitely, there's a lot of great resources. Especially too, like, even though I've iterated some of the models that I've used and they're not all exactly like MREA, I've taken some stuff from that I still use for this day. So I've added on top of that, I've learned different things, I've added the marketing piece and other stuff. But to answer your question, there's definitely a lot of good foundations, and you just got to follow those foundations. I find people are just getting away from the basics. They just want to find a way to not talk to people and not, contact their database every 3 months. Just put the tag on, call them and delete the tag. Like, you could end the podcast right there. You know what I mean? Like, not that tough. Just talk to people, figure out what they need, right? Ask them, come from value. It's just people making it more complicated than it needs to be. And I think that's where they get sucked into the collective energy of like, well, the market's this and the market's that. But people are going to be motivated. People are going to need to sell. They're going to need to buy. You just got to find them. If the market had 1,200 sales, and your goal is to do 60 deals a year, there's definitely 60 deals for you,
Yeah, there's always a piece of the market for everybody.
Exactly.
And for any of those who don't know, MRAM, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that's what that stands for. It's a really great book. You have to get it.
Yeah. And even if you're not a part of the Keller Williams family, you need to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to set your business up for sure. The models are in there. We reference pages, everything, the whole book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even that listing leads, right? So that piece is, even though it's foundational, I've read that book probably 15 times. I've read so many books like different times, but you get something different every time, and you implement. And, what I'm kind of doing now is I remember hearing this saying where it's better to read like a few pages of a book and implement than read like 2 or 3 books and not implement. So I'm at a point now where I'm very selective of what kind of trainings that I do, because I want to make sure that I'm, and if you are new, these trainings are going to be focused on your business. They're going to be focused on, how do you generate business? How do you have conversation with people? How do you make scripts seem like dialogues rather than scripts where you just sound like you're not even, you actually have dialogue so you can actively listen to the person. You know what I mean? That's really important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go back a little bit to the beginning. You've been in real estate 10 years, and you were talking at the beginning about you went to like a flipping course with your wife. So that leads me to my next question. What are your goals with real estate, if you have any, in terms of flipping, investments, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, as a result too, I've helped a lot of clients that have done business with us over and over again. I've had some clients that have done, and this will answer your question in a second, conversions of like a single family home to a triplex. And that's been like a 7-month project. He wants to do more. He's a builder client of ours. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, my goal with real estate is, to definitely build generational wealth. We're also interested in vacation property as well, in Costa Rica, and like other areas like rent to own as another form of income. Private lending is also very interesting too, something that we're learning more about. So that's definitely a goal when it comes to real estate. And then when it comes to organization, just hiring out a really great hiring out a really great operations person. I mean, I'm handling everything fine. I'm very systems oriented anyway, but we've built some systems, but having someone come in and, rewrite the procedures. But to answer your question, like having a few great agents, working with us that have those values and visions, but not being, in the comparison game that I have to have this many people on the team or whatever, just running in my lane, focusing on, serving people at a high level. And honestly, just people notice it when you start doing that and you show up. People see it, they notice it, and they want to work with you. So I think that's how it works personally.
Yeah, I think that's really well-rounded. Out of everything you just described, what would be your biggest struggle, would you say?
Biggest struggle, I mean, I'm someone who I get a lot of great ideas and I love to implement. So, I guess you can call kind of an integrator in a way. So I'd say I just have to write those down, and getting excited. Getting excited is great, but sometimes you just have to keep focusing on the same activities. What else? Making sure that we have when we have that right hire, they're able to really run the business that I would want it to be run. Because we had some fit, it wasn't the right fit, and that's okay. We learned a lot, but it made me learn about, and I do think every agent should learn how their business works on the systems level, because they know how much each thing takes. So when they're looking for the right hire, they can create like that missing persons report.
Yeah.
But struggles, I would say, being able to grow, it would allow us to grow faster, to be able to have those things in place. But we're definitely, it's a great question. Yeah, I'd say still, it's always just improving on things every day. There's always things to improve on. There's always different iterations. There's, making sure that you remember that closing, making sure everything's put in the calendar. So having that person, that's literally that right-hand person to make sure that's all done. And then eventually I don't really focus on recruiting and stuff. I think that happens through just you showing up as the best brand you can be. I have to think about that question. There's a lot of things in there, but they're just challenges. They're things you're overcoming, right? And you're using those challenges as what they call stumbling blocks, as like things as stepping stones, so.
Oh, for sure. There's stepping stones to
yeah, exactly.
Big idea. And Sam mentioned being an integrator. So if anyone has heard of The Integrator and Visionary, it's an amazing book. I forget the title of the book. And
it's called Rocket Fuel.
Oh my gosh. I probably have everything highlighted in that book. And my husband and I actually took the quiz online. And believe it or not, we're both visionaries, and only 5% of people in the world are visionaries.
Wow.
Yeah, like I would say that I definitely have a big component of visionary. I'm just one of the people that I'm able to like implement it. Like one of my superpowers is connecting people and implementing things, and just talking to people and building rapport with them really quickly. I just feel like that's something and I love sales. I do love marketing and sales. So I think maybe the learnings have allowed me to become more integration, and learning how real estate works and being in the ecosystem, if you will. But having a vision for why it's important, I think is important. I think definitely I do have that component. I really take the quiz, to be honest with you, but I do think that there's sometimes different things show up, right? Sometimes your high D shows up. Sometimes, so I think that the visionary does show up too.
Yeah. Oh, I think it does for sure.
So what does that mean? What is
it just means that you see like the bigger picture and not just the box. You see like, 10 steps ahead or the whole next year. And sometimes it's a struggle to break it down for people because you're already so far ahead.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really
so would you say, top producers and top entrepreneurs and billionaires and things, they're all visionaries?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
Yeah, like and I guess I probably have that component, because everything that I've done has been through like a vision or a lens of that. So that probably is definitely a big component of that. And I think there's a good balance between, if someone's a great visionary, but they're not able to implement on the day to day, doing those small actions over time without looking at the 2 months out and looking at the results they're getting for that week. It's important to focus on that task at hand. If you have 50 people to call that day and they're going to help you move your business forward, then you're focusing on that. So having that vision, I think that's where, whether it's a mentor, a coach, different trainings, it doesn't mean you always have to be a specific coach. It could be specific mentors or different trainings or investing in yourself. Then that will allow you to get a better vision. And then you can start, goal planning, setting around that. And those white space times are important, so yeah.
I agree. And I think it's also important that I feel we all start out as an integrator. Like when I worked at a corporate restaurant when I was younger, we had to know every single job role, even if we didn't work it. So we knew how it worked. And if someone stepped out, we could step in. And I kind of do apply that to a real estate business. Like right now, managing a large team and staff, I need to know what their tasks are. And then eventually I'll work on the business and not in it. See the difference with the integrator and the visionary, right? Because if I ever need to come back in, or how can I, edit or shift the system or format that we're inputting? It's like you start at the integrator, that basics, and then you start working your way out sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you definitely, like you said, knowing how the business operates and working on it, having those buffer days or those focus days, and being able to focus on projects that are important to you, and really enjoying what you're doing. I think being able to enjoy just being at peace with the fact that you're building connections all the time, and you're building your business, you're growing while you're planning things and while you're looking to hire people where you're not the best at. For example, for me, like the listings, like getting the paperwork in, that's not something I had done in a long time now. Recently I've had to start doing a little bit more, but I've been able to learn those skills about time management and know what we're looking for. And client care is important to us. So we want to make sure we get that, that person that understands the integration part to integrate those systems and make your life simple. So then as a leader or whatever, you can decide what you want to know, what's happening in the day when it comes to the business.
Yeah. And it's mindset, taking it as a learning opportunity. And there always is one at the end of the day.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today, Sam. This was a great episode. Tell everyone where we can find you.
Yeah. So thank you for having me. Really grateful for it. I appreciate that. So you can find me at affluenceregroup.com, but really on Instagram, if you, so Sam, ABDALLAH_KW. That's where we post a lot of our content, our podcast and different things, what we have coming up. We have, listing videos, just things that show how we market homes. But really, if someone needs help with anything, or they're in that situation where they have a renewal coming up and they want to figure out what resources they need, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to make sure that they have the right connection. Like we did we're recording with Adam, for example, on how to buy cottage. So if someone's going up there your way, so we always have a connection in our network with someone to help them. So yeah, that's where you can reach out. And my direct number is 519-574-3532.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. And be sure to check out Sam's podcast, Build Health, Wealth, and Legacy. I love it. It's very informative. So check that out. And thank you again for coming on.
Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you for having me. Really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. Thanks
for joining. That's The Vault.
Thanks.